And now to the latest, thousands are feared dead in Iran after security forces launched a brutal crackdown on weeks of anti-government protests. Iranians calling family abroad for the first time in days describe widespread death and destruction. A security official told newsmen that the toll could reach 2,000, including security personnel. Human rights groups report one protester is set to be executed tomorrow, calling the case unprecedentedly fast. State media says protests eased last night, but footage shows unrest continues in multiple locations. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by our senior international correspondent Afua Hagan and global affairs analyst Alexander von Rugen. Lady and gentlemen, many thanks for joining us. I appreciate you for coming on. Let me start with you, Alex. Are any of Iran's allies stepping up to combat this insurgency that we're seeing?
Well, yes, quietly. I mean, the U.S. is putting pressure on. They don't want to put any boots on the ground. Israel is probably the best intelligence gatherer in Iran because Mossad has infiltrated Iran for many, many years. But this insurgency is larger than any previous one. Donald Trump had asked Elon Musk to deploy Starlink satellite network units throughout Iran, which I think they deployed about 4,000 of them. Now, the only people that have the technology to disrupt that are the Chinese and the Russians. So it's suspected that the Chinese have microwave installations and GPS scramblers, or spoofing as they call it, on the ground, which are flooding the KU band from the satellites with signals off the ground. So what it does, it disrupts the signal and makes communication very disjointed. So what we're seeing out of Iran are fragments of information. And it's really difficult to connect the dots as to what the true story is here.
Afua, what's the strategic logic behind President Trump's imposition of about 25% tariff on countries doing business with Iran? And how might this affect global trade relationships extensively?
Well, this is about backing Iran into a corner and backing the people that deal with Iran into a corner as well, namely countries like China, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates. Like I said in my report, this 25% tariff is intended to make those partners force between an economic engagement with Iran or an economic engagement and access to the United States and the US market. Now, this could significantly strain global relationships. The major players who have long-standing relationships with Iran, like China, like the UAE, they will want to push back against what is essentially long-arm economic coercion. I mean, that's going to really complicate diplomatic and trade policy with the US, and also push other powers around the bloc to perhaps step in and step into that vacuum as well. But it is also about forcing Iran to the Iranian government, specifically the regime, to number one, stop killing the protesters, but also to listen to their demands for to end the economic crisis, to pour money back into the country, to rebuild those relationships that have led it to get to this point in the first place. So it's all about pressure.
Alexander, so what are the options there for U.S. and Israel? And might I just add, what is driving, this, what we're seeing regarding the protesters? Why now?
It's been a buildup of the 12-day war, which happened in June, where 30 senior military officials were taken out by Israel on strategic strikes, 11 nuclear scientists. You have an economic problem right now with the currency and high inflation rates. You also have a major drought in Iran. They're out of water in Tehran due to neglect of infrastructure management, and that's a regime problem. They're, of course, blaming it on America and Israel that they're controlling the weather and creating this drought, which is absurd. Most importantly, right now the Gen Zers are adopting the Gen Z playbook, which is they're targeting the homes of the senior officials in government and military, and they're burning them and they're attacking them, and they're in one case I think they beat a general to death. But again, we're getting fragmented information. This playbook can be seen in Nepal recently, in Bangladesh, in Madagascar, in Tanzania. So it's the Gen Zers that are frustrated. They're dependent on the internet for communication. So taking the internet away from a Gen Zer is like taking drugs away from a drug addict. They're going to go ballistic. So that is actually a driving force here. In fact, the Khamenei even said, tell your children, tell the young people not to be on the streets tonight. Have them go to the mosque and pray, because we don't want to see them get harmed. He sees that as a driving force. So I think he's cognizant of it. I think they've refrained from shooting as many people as they have in the past, although what I'm hearing on data feeds, and again, you get mixed reviews on the internet because a lot of it is not truthful news, but I would suspect that the death toll is much, much higher than what they're reporting. I would think 2 or 3 times higher.
Right.
Driving force, again, you've got the son of the Shah doing a campaign to provoke the protesters to go for this regime change, and he's Iranian, Ravi Pahlavi. You've got Israel doing campaigns saying, we love the people of Iran. We're not against you. We're against your regime. We will welcome you into business. So, and as my colleague pointed out, the neighbors of Iran, with these Trump tariffs at 25%, to me, that's a bit of a nothing burger. I don't think it's going to, on the short term, is going to have much of an impact. China and Russia are already under sanctions from the U.S. and high tariffs. The Emirates, they're supplying money. What are you going to tariff? They don't manufacture goods for Iran.
Right.
One of their closest trading partners is Qatar, which happens to be the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East. So there's a little contradiction here in terms. They're a supporter, yet they're an ally to the U.S. Saudi Arabia, they're fighting a proxy war with Iran. They have for years in Yemen. Okay. It's Sunni against Shia. So it's a very complex situation. It's not a black and white solution. Right.
Complex indeed. Afua, but Iran's government has said that it is prepared for war, but also will be open to negotiations. How credible is the capital's call, Tehran's call for diplomacy at this stage? Very quickly, because we're pressed for time.
Tehran definitely sending mixed signals at the moment. On one hand, saying they're prepared for war, but on the other hand, definitely using backdoor diplomacy and keeping those channels of negotiations open, because no country wants to go to war with the United States. I think it is credible that they would look at diplomacy at this stage, but like I said, Tehran definitely sending mixed signals.
Lady and gentlemen, many thanks. We appreciate you for coming on. Alexander von Rugen there, Global Affairs Analyst, and of course, our very own Senior International Correspondent, Afua Hagan. Thank you once again for your insight.